You're live.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Sallallahu sallam wa barak ala abdihi wa rasulihi nabina wa imamina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Welcome to all. Alhamdulillah, we finished Kitab al-Nikah. And from the benefits of studying and reading the books of the Sunnah is that you learn fiqh. The scholars of Islam, they say you get that which is called malaka fiqhiyya. You get a knack for fiqh. And you get a knack for al-istinbat, of deducing, extracting, pulling out the benefits. Not by, when I'm talking about studying fiqh or usul fiqh or qawaid fiqhiyya or fatawa or madhabs, but we're talking about just from reading the hadiths. The books that are mubawwaba, murattaba, the books that are placed into chapters and sections, kitab, bab. Why did I bring this up? Why am I mentioning this? After we finished Kitab al-Nikah, Imam Muslim rahimahullah ta'ala mentions what? Kitab, what? Breastfeeding. Why? What's the connection or the correlation between marriage and breastfeeding?
Next stage.
You're not allowed to. It's in that. You're not allowed to marry.
An-natija min maqasid al-nikah. From the most important aims and objectives of marriage is to have one of, not the only, but without a question, one of the most important aims and objectives, goals of nikah between man and woman is a baby. And one of the most important needs and necessities of the baby is nourishment. The baby needs protection, the baby needs education, the baby needs dua, etc. But it needs physical, material maintenance and nourishment. And nothing is more healthy, nothing is more nutritious than the mother's milk. And we can go on and on and on and give lectures about the virtue of a woman's milk and what it does for the child and what it does for other than the child. And how many different remedies and cures it serves by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's permission. There's nothing like a woman's breast milk with regards to the natural stuff that's inside of it. Alright, that's a fact. So therefore, Islam commands and Islam encourages the woman to breastfeed her children. Right? So therefore, the step is supposed to be man, woman, marriage. Woman is supposed to bear the child, and the woman is supposed to feed and suckle the child. And like anything else in Islam, there are going to be rulings. And there are do's and there are don'ts. There's an etiquette. And the moment a woman breastfeeds a child, it automatically, the light, the switch comes on, ahkam. Rulings. Everyone understand this? Where does a woman get the breast milk from? How does her body produce that milk? Where do the glands get whatever they need to produce that milk? Right? That's a discussion. And that isn't to be mixed and confused, and it isn't to be trifled with regards to other children, marriage, divorce, so on and so forth. So this is why ar-rida comes right after nikah. And notice how the next chapter isn't talaq. The next chapter isn't divorce. Which one may say, well, hop, skip, and jump, marriage, then divorce. But before that, and for argument's sake, even if a person gets divorced, in most cases they're going to what? Going to have a child. And that's a lesson in itself with regards to getting married. And if you're young and you want to marry someone that's young like you, that's fine. If you're married or you're single, you want to marry someone who doesn't have children, you fear of not holding or upholding the responsibility or drama with the ex-husband or with the baby dad or baby mama or jealousy, whatever the case may be, that's fine. But realize, if you're of a certain age, living in this world, what woman that is attractive, beautiful, has a good religion, good personality, good sense of humor, so on and so forth, 20, 25, without children, 30? It's a serious question. What man is around that age just floating around? He has no children. You guys get the point? Something a little off. How are you living in this dunya, in and out, and you have no children? Something's off. Just think about that now. If you're looking for a house to live in, an apartment, real estate, You drive by and you find this beautiful apartment, this beautiful condo, this beautiful home. So at a good price, it's clean, it's in a good neighborhood, right? Has a lawn, has a driveway, has a basement, has an attic, has this, has that, has this, has that. Everything's beautiful. And no one has ever lived in this place or checked this place out. There's never been any tenants in the house. You ask the realtor or the agent, how long has this house or this apartment been? He says, it's been there for 10 years. 15 years it's been sitting here. No one ever rented it? No one ever had a mortgage? No one came in? No. It's just sitting there. What would your first initial feeling be like? Because if the house was so good, so wide, so spacious, so this, so that, then it what? That's a fact. Someone would have been attracted to that house and moved into that house. So oftentimes many people, they're prevented from getting a good spouse, man or woman, because they say, I don't have kids, I don't have kids. And which sometimes that's good for them, as we've just explained. Everybody is different. There's no broad brushing for all individuals, but you get the point I'm trying to make. If you're young, that's one thing. I want an 18-year-old wife, I'm 18, I don't want to have children, etc. But you're 25, you're 30. And you want to marry a woman that's of similar age, that has maturity, that's not laughing and giggling and totally obnoxious, so on and so forth. Why hasn't she been married yet? And why doesn't she have any kids? Or a sister says, I don't want a brother who has kids. I don't want no interferences. Allahu Akbar. How about that? Huh?
You called it.
MashaAllah. Okay, another live HD moment, huh? Tell you, hopefully nobody gets spooked out by black cats. Allah knows best about the people's aqidah.
Friday 13th.
Allahu Akbar. Tell you, what's important is the moral of the story is you guys get or you guys don't get. You understand? It's more or so for a woman seeking a brother. A woman wants a brother that's a little older than her. He's a good brother, he has a good deen, he's handsome, he has a good job, blah, 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 blah. And he has what? No children. And he's been married before, or even worse than that, he what? You get the point I'm trying to make? So in most cases, the concept of getting married and having children shouldn't be shunned, and it shouldn't be a bad and negative thing. Khair inshallah. Bismillah. Who are we to disturb the cat? Tayyib. She wants to play with the quills, mashallah. Allah knows best what she smells on those quills. Of the bird. Her sense of smell is different than what? Obviously it's something that she's tasting and smelling. That's a fact. And cats love what? They love birds. So how long have those quills been sitting there? Right? You think that they're dry, lifeless, right? Allah knows best what she's smelling right now. Tayyip. Al-Muhim. You guys distracted me by getting me to talk about the cat. The cat wasn't distracting me.
We're distracted. We're focused on the lecture.
Tayyip. All right. So that's with regards to the arrangement of the kitabs of the books. Nikah, then Rada. All right. If you're a student of knowledge, then this chapter, like any other chapter of fiqh, you're going to study it with a teacher from a summarized book, in which you are going to familiarize yourself with the most essential and important aspects of the chapter. The most essential and the most important aspects of this chapter, with one opinion, one view, clear, simple, easy, no difference of opinion. And if you're studying a small beginner's fiqh manual, no proof, no evidence. I.e., give me your hand. Take my hand, walk with me. There's no questions. Where are we going? Why are we walking so slow, so fast? Just walk with me. Trust me. And we're going for a brief stroll. We're not making any detours. We're not turning here. We're not jumping. We're not skipping. We're not jogging. We're taking a slow walk for a very short period of time. And once we reach our destination, then you'll take someone else's hand. And then they'll walk with you maybe a little faster. Yeah, then the cat is distracting you guys. Tell you, focus on the fiqh, Khair inshallah. The cat's at peace. And Allah knows best. One with itself, it seems. Right? Tell you, what's important is that once you get to that destination, someone else has their hand out for you. And he says, what? Give me your hand. and he holds your hand, or she holds your hand, whoever, and they walk with you a little faster. And you may make a stop. And you may make a turn. And then you get to that destination, someone get, what? Pulls you a little faster. And say, come on, now we got a jog. We got to run briskly. And now instead of walking a block or half a block, it's now 3 blocks, 5 blocks. And we stop here, we turn here. And there's a stoplight. There's a traffic sign. Right? There's a yield to pedestrian sign. Pay attention to the signs now. There's a trolley coming. There are cars coming. There's an intersection. There are numbers telling you how fast you can get across the street. There's a sound for those who have they have a disability, right? I don't want to say the word blind. And then you get to, after those 3 blocks or 5 blocks, then someone grabs you and pulls you. Now they're what? We're running. Slow down. No. Those other 3 people, they walk with you at that pace. Now we're running. And now there's a pothole in the middle of the sidewalk that you got to jump over. And now it's a detour. And then you stop for 5 minutes. You stop for 10 minutes. And you stand there at the intersection. Here, 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 or here. All of them get to the same destination. What route will I take? And some people say that you shouldn't walk anymore, you should take the trolley. And some say take the bus. And some say take an Uber. And some say take a taxi. And some say take a Lyft. Etc., etc., etc. So in this chapter, whatever small fiqh book that you're studying with your teacher or your teachers, you're going to learn what is this, what's suckling and breastfeeding in Islam, and what are the most important, essential matters of this topic, such as what? Off the top of your heads.
Who becomes a mahram?
Who becomes a mahram based off of the relationship of the milk? What else?
How long does the breastfeeding have to happen before?
How many times? How many times does the baby have to feed? 1 sip? 1 drop of milk?
Who can be breastfed?
Who can be breastfed? Age? 2 years old, beyond 2, can you breastfeed a grown man, etc.?
What makes somebody's milk invalid for breastfeeding?
What makes a woman's milk invalid for breastfeeding? Taib, anything else?
Who can substitute?
Who can substitute? A wet nurse. A woman has a problem feeding. She doesn't have enough milk, or she has an issue with her body, whatever it may be. Can another woman come in and provide the milk for that child? Or, even more important than that, what's the ruling on breastfeeding? Is it obligatory? Or can a woman offer her child formula, synthetic milk, etc.? Is that even lawful? Is it mandatory for me to breastfeed my child? Obviously, breastfeeding comes with many challenges, right? It comes with many obstacles. It comes with different pros and cons for the woman and for the man. So, what's the ruling on that? That's first and foremost. Is it obligatory? Is a woman sinful if she says, I don't want to breastfeed my daughter? I don't want to breastfeed my son? Right? وهكذا. What did Shafi'i say? Malik say? Albani say? Fulan, this hadith is like. Get a clear concept of what's being said. Point A, point B, point C, and that's it. Until you move on to the next level, until the next station, and you take a little more. And you learn a little more. And the same applies to the hadiths. You're studying a small book of hadith, or hadith is not like studying a bigger book. No discrepancies in the hadith, sahih, da'if, Bukhari, Muslim, clear, simple, right to the point. Boom, boom, boom. And you build up. And that's how you study fiqh. And that's how you study hadith. Simple, easy. And you take your steps until you grow, until you mature. Just like a baby. No different than a baby. Baby food isn't administered to a newborn baby, correct? Baby food isn't administered on a large scale to a toddler. Table food isn't administered. Well, heck of that. And then there are levels of table food. Certain things, certain pieces of table food are only for this age. And then they get a little older, they don't need the little mushy stuff. They can pick it up, they can grab it, etc. That's how you study, and that's how you learn, that's how you develop. Khair, inshallah. So therefore, make sure that you have a teacher or teachers that are teaching you the proper way of studying fiqh. With the simple, basic steps, whether it's according to a madhab or whether it's according to other than a madhab. Khair, inshallah. All right. So the first hadith, he says here, Kitab al-Rada' Babu يحرم من الرضاعة ما يحرم من الولادة. حديث عائشة رضي الله عنها زوج النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كان عندها وأنها سمعت صوت رجل يستأذن في بيت حفصة قالت عائشة فقلت يا رسول الله أراه فلانا لعم حفصة من الرضاعة فقالت عائشة يا رسول الله هذا رجل يستأذن في بيتك قالت فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أراه فلانا لعم حفصة من الرضاعة فقالت عائشة لو كان فلان حيا لعمها من الرضاعة دخل عليه فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم نعم إن الرضاعة تحرم ما يحرم من الولادة. It says things which are illegal because of blood relations are also illegal because of the corresponding suckling foster relations. In other words, if two children share milk, then it is as if they share blood in simple terms. Wilada, birth. This is my sister. DNA. This is my suckling sister. Same. Everybody understand this? So how do we affirm, or how is a mahram confirmed? How do we establish mahramship? There are different ways of mahramship, and from that is the sharing of milk. Everybody understand this? So there's no difference. You don't say in Islam you can only touch someone who's related to you. You can only touch someone, a female relative, as many people say, when they have to shake the opposite sex's hand. They say, "Oh, I can only shake a female relative." A female, that's not absolutely what? Everybody clear on this or not? Khayr inshallah. All right, so that's with regards to the chapter heading, and this is supposed to prepare you for the main lesson and a highlighted point from the hadith. Hadith 916 is narrated Aisha radiallahu anha, the wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. While the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was with me in my house, I heard a man asking Hafsa's permission to enter her house. Aisha radiallahu anha said, I said, "O Allah's Messenger, I think the man is Hafsa's foster uncle." Aisha added, "O Allah's Messenger, there's a man asking the permission to enter your house." Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam replied, "I think the man is Hafsa's foster uncle." Aisha said, "If so-and-so were living, i.e. her foster uncle, would he be allowed to visit me?" Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Yes, he would, as the foster suckling relations are treated like blood relations." So the gist of this hadith, someone wants to come in, and once he enters this house or this apartment, this chamber, these hujurat, what's going to happen when he enters? He's going to come into contact with what? A woman who is, for argument's sake, isn't a what? Mahram, isn't related to who? Who? Who isn't he related to? In this hadith. Hafsa or? Which one? Or both? Hafsa. Hafsa. And so what is this man's relationship to Hafsa? Foster uncle. Not blood uncle, but what? Foster uncle. Now, who said if Fulan and Fulan was living, he would enter upon me? Who said that? So the man is going to see Hafsa or Aisha. The man will be related to, through suckling, to who? Hafsa. And he's going to come in and see. Do you agree or disagree? Khayran. We'll get there. What's important is, as if the Prophet ﷺ said, if so-and-so was alive, he would come in and he would have the ability to see you, even though there isn't no. Because why? Because milk makes haram like blood makes haram. Everybody understand the simplification of the hadith? The milk makes haram with the what? With the blood makes haram. This is my older brother coming in. This is my uncle. My uncle can see me without hijab. I understand? And a man who doesn't share the blood, but there's a relation with regards to the breast milk, he can also. Everybody clear on this or not? We got the highlighting point from the hadith? Khayr inshallah. All right, let's move forward now. This hadith has many different fawaid. And before we take some of those fawaid, and before we get into some of the rulings with regards to the highlighting point of this hadith, I bring up a very interesting point with regards to a woman covering her hands and her face. And what's meant by this hadith that says, if so-and-so were living, would he be allowed to visit me? Dakhala alayya. He would enter upon me. Would he enter upon Aisha and her hands and her face are exposed? Or would he enter upon me and he would see me because the hands and the face would normally be what? Covered. And what will be the fruit or the benefit from this hadith?
To show whether the face is obligated to cover.
Listen to the scenarios now. Number one, scenario A. Aisha radiallahu anha, Aisha and Hafsa, they're in the house. Aisha's in the house, and her face is uncovered and her hands are uncovered. Ma enter. A strange man who isn't her mahram. In other words, he's going to see her in the house as he would see her. Benefit or no? You guys understand or not?
No.
Listen carefully. Let's say, for example, your mother doesn't cover her hands and her face. No problem. I come to visit you. Oh, come in, Sheikh. Please come into the kitchen. My mom, she's making some tea. Right? Assalamu alaikum. How you doing, brother Mufti? Blah, 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 blah. We ain't got to sit and talk and flirt, but she gives salams. I see your mother like anybody else would what? In the market, at the traffic light, etc., etc. Versus, oh no, don't go in the kitchen. I don't want you to see my mom. Versus scenario number two, your mother's in the kitchen and she doesn't have an arkimar. Or she has on a house dress. Or something else. Her arms are rolled up. She was cooking some food. You said, wait a second, Sheikh, give me a second. Well, let's sit in the living room first. Right? Or you say, Umi, are we ready? Sheikh Mufti, I want you to meet Sheikh Mufti when I come in the kitchen. Give me 1 second. Everybody clear on this or not?
Yes.
Right or wrong? Or, third scenario, your mother is in the kitchen wearing niqab and gloves. And you say, wait a second, Sheikh, don't come in yet. You can't enter yet. Well, which of these three makes the most sense? The second, which is what?
She's wearing the.
In other words, me coming into her house or her kitchen or her room, I'm going to see her like no other man would see her except for her mahram, not husband, mahram, son, uncle, etc. What would be the big benefit of me not being able to enter upon her and what? Her hands and her face out. What's the difference in the street? You guys with me or not? There's nothing, I'm privy to nothing anymore. Because John, Jim, Fulan, and Fulan, they all see her walking down the street with what? Because she doesn't consider her aura. So there's nothing exclusive. Versus, Mufti can come into the kitchen. I'm covered up. He can't see nothing that no one else, you get the point? So this hadith, among many other hadiths, is a point of reflection. It's a very interesting point with regards to what's meant by the hijab of the woman. And is it accurate to say that there's no direct proof stating that a woman doesn't have to cover her hands and her face? Versus that being the default of a woman's beauty being hidden and screened. And no one can enter and come in except, etc., etc., etc. Everybody understand this? Take this down and compare it to the hadith, the famous narration of Asma, which is one of the strongest proofs used by the scholars who say that a woman does not have to cover her hands and her face. إِذَا بَلَغَتِ الْجَارِيَةُ الْمَحِيض, when a young girl reaches puberty, nothing can be seen from her except for this and that. And then the hadith says the Prophet put into his hands and his face. Right? So, how was... Tayyip, we don't go too far. It's a long discussion about that hadith and about this issue. What's important is Aisha is asking the question, if so-and-so was alive, would he be able to enter upon me? If it was my blood uncle, would he enter upon me? How will my blood uncle see me? With no type of clothes on? Or... Guys get the point I'm trying to make or not? You get it or not? Shuf, look at it like this. We read a hadith, and the hadith says so-and-so wishes to enter. He wishes to enter, he asks for permission. Because of what? The woman is dressed in a manner she's sitting with her husband, her brother, or just her hands and her face are out. What sounds the most sensible? And not just the what? Hands in the face. You understand? Can he come in? You get it? So there's a very long discussion with regards to covering the hands in the face. I'm just trying to show you and train you how from one thing we learn what? 10,000 things. And from one argument, you get to another fiqh argument. And you look at all the proofs and evidences collectively. All right, moving forward. That's one of the fawaid of that hadith. All right, An-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says here regarding this chapter, هو بفتح الرأي وكسرها ورضع بفتح الرأي وكسرها وقد رضع الصبي أمه بكسر الصاد أو قد رضع الصبي أمه بكسر الصاد ويرضعها بفتحها رضاعا قال الجوهري ويقول أهل نجد رضع يرضع بفتح الضاد في الماضي وكسرها في المضارع رضع يرضع ورضعا كضرب يضرب ضربا وأرضعته أمه وامرأة مرضع أي لها ولد ترضعه أو ترضعه فإن رضعتها بإرضاعه قلت مرضعة بالهاء والله أعلم. So he explains the term رضاع or رضاعة, which is a benefit pertaining to the Arabic language. What scale is it on? What was it? Nasara, yansuru, daraba, yadribu. Right? The awzan sarfiyya. Now, those who study the sarf. And the qiyas. And how do you call a woman who's breastfeeding? Murdi'ah or murdi'? Does it need a ha on the end or not? With regards to the fawaid of lugha. When the Prophet ﷺ, he says, قوله إن الرضاعة تحرم ما تحرمه الولادة وفي رواية يحرم من رضاعي ما يحرم من الولادة وفي حديث قصة حفصة وحديث قصة عائشة الإذن لدخول العم من الرضاعة عليها وفي الحديث الآخر فليلج عليك عمك قلت إنما أرضعتني المرأة ولم يرضعني الرجل قال إنه عمك فليلج عليك. هذه الأحاديث متفقة على ثبوت حرمة الرضاع وأجمعت الأمة على ثبوتها بين الرضيع والمرضعة وأنه يصير ابنها يحرم عليه نكاحها أبدا ويحل له النظر إليها والخلوة بها والمسافرة ولا يترتب عليه أحكام الأمومة من كل وجه فلا يتوارثان ولا يجب على أحد منهما نفقة الآخر ولا يعتق عليه بالملك ولا ترد شهادته لها ولا يؤقل عنها ولا يسقط عنها القصاص بقتله فهما كالأجنبيين في هذه الأحكام وأجمعوا أيضا على انتشار الحرمة بين المرضعة وأولاد الرضيع وبين الرضيع وأولاد المرضعة وأنه في ذلك كوردها من النسب لهذه الأحاديث. He says the first fawaid from these stories, he says, is the seeking permission to enter. Al-idhnu lidukhul al-ammi. One's uncle, foster uncle from breastfeeding, he isn't to just come in, but he should what? He should seek permission. And anyone should seek permission. Even if it's your daughter or your father. Always seek permission before you enter someone's house. You don't know what the person is doing, how they're dressed, what they're involved. You don't know, to ask for permission. And it's one of the most important pieces of Islamic etiquette, which protects from so much vice and so much danger. So much vice and so much danger. Oh, it's my daughter. No, big dog, just come in. It's my son. It's my dad. Oh, it's just the bathroom. No biggie. I just want to wash my hands. It protects from vice and danger, harm, by asking permission. Can I come in? Respect. Moving forward, he says, another hadith states, فَلْيَلِجْ عَلَيْكِ عَمُّكِ. Let your uncle come in. She said, the woman gave me the milk. She's the one who fed me, who suckled me. And the man didn't give me anything. The Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّهُ عَمُّكِ. He's your uncle. فَلْيَلِجْ عَلَيْكِ. He can come in. He can enter upon you. All right? He says these hadith all clearly show, they all clearly prove as that rada, the suckling, the breastfeeding, it brings hurma. It brings mahramship. It establishes what? Mahramship. He says in the ummah, the Muslims, they unanimously agree is that the child and the mother, or the child and the breastfeeding woman, they share mahramship. Period. There's no difference of opinion. The woman who gave the child the milk and the child who received the milk, they're now what? Mahrams for each other. There's no difference of opinion in no madhab, is that is an established rule. Pay attention now, because it's going to take a detour. The child and the woman, that's it. over which there is consensus. Nawawi, he then says, and that this child becomes a son of this woman, quote unquote, a foster son, and he can never ever marry her. They can never get married. She's divorced from the man, she's older, they can never ever cross roads of marriage. And this is the meaning of a mahram. And this clearly shows that a brother-in-law or sister-in-law is not what? It's not a mahram. You're not allowed to hug your sister-in-law or give her a handshake or to sit with her and look at her uncovered and dialed up and perfumed up and hinted up and makeup. That's haram. It's unlawful. And that is also a doorway to vice and harm, evil, right? Shaitan is not going to spare you. And many Muslims, they overlook this and they take it as a, a small thing, no big deal. Why your mind so perverted and dirty? What's the biggie? This is our culture. Well, why are you so strict? You're a Wahhabi, so on and so forth. It's a reality. And the shaitan, of course, he's not going to what? He's not going to go to them. No one is going to take an extra look or extra gaze. There's not going to be lack of pleasure or contempt. Dang, I should have married her. Right? For real, huh? When I met the family, she wasn't there. Or she wasn't looking like how she's looking today. It's reality. He's having problems with his wife, right? Or even deeper than that, let's keep it real now, is the personality. They got married, and obviously they're past the honeymoon. Those 2 weeks or 2 months of bliss and happiness and laughing and giggling. He woke up in the morning, smelled her bad breath. No? She smelled his bad breath, right? He saw her with her hair uncombed, etc., etc., etc. Snoring, passing gas, all of the things that, you're no longer hiding from your spouse now. Bad character, your anger problem, this addiction, etc., etc., etc. Having problems in the marriage. And he sits, he's waiting for the wife to come. And the sister, she brings the tray of food. Assalamu alaikum, how you guys doing? MashaAllah, how's it going? Alhamdulillah, da-da-da-da-da. And you're sitting, you're talking, you're vibing, da-da-da. It's like her personality is what? Better than my wife's personality. She's smarter than my wife. I can't hold a 5-minute conversation with my wife. It's reality. Shaitan is going to what? Yuzayyin. Or from the woman's side. Dang. Look at the man my sister got. I know my sister. I grew up with her. She doesn't deserve him. I deserve him. My sister doesn't appreciate him. All right? She doesn't know how to treat him. Right? So on and so forth. So be careful. It's not supposed to be sitting and laughing and joking and chitter-chatting. You speak to them. How you guys doing? Alhamdulillah, we brought some gifts. Da-da-da-da-da. No problem. But there's a limit. All right, there's a limit. So a brother-in-law and a sister-in-law is not a what? Mahram. And the same applies to the man, vice versa. And that's because if you divorce this woman, later on you can marry her sister. So that is not, those people are not mahrams. Moving forward. An-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, so therefore he can look at her. And what's meant by looking at her? Once again, common sense. He can see her what? What's the difference? What's exclusive for the mahram to see if everyone can see her hands and her face in the street? Guys still don't get the point. That a person can come and argue and say the opinion that states that a woman does not have to cover her hands and her face makes no sense. Because everybody is seeing her hands and her face wherever she goes. Versus she's covered up. I don't know what her face looks like. But in the house, she's my mahram, I'm her mahram. Everybody clear on this or not? And of course, what's meant by another ilayha, looking at her, is not her body. Not her wearing skin-tight clothes or revealing clothes or short shorts. That's impermissible, period. You guys get the point I'm trying to make? Another ilayha, looking at what? Her, meaning? Look at that. Then the hair, next level, so on and so forth. So that's food for thought. Let that simmer on your minds. Moving forward. He then says, "Well, khalwatu biha," and he can be alone with her. They don't need a third party. He can travel with her, but it doesn't mean that they're mother and son from every single perspective, every aspect. Doesn't mean that. That's his mother. That's her son, but not what? 100%. You guys with me? Not what? Not 100%. Such as, he says, فَلَا يَتَوَارَثَانِ. They don't inherit from each other. Like an actual mother or son. Nor does one have to spend upon the next. My foster mother, my mother from suckling, I don't have to provide for her if she's needy. Nor does she have to what? Provide for me. Like an actual mother or an actual son. Also, for argument's sake, if the son were to obtain the mother through slavery, she was a captive or given to him, she wouldn't be automatically emancipated like a mother. Obviously, from one thing, we learn 10,000 things. Saying that if a man were to find his parent as a slave, and that man found his mother or father as a slave, that the father or mother would automatically be immediately, without no manumission. In other words, a son or daughter cannot have his father or mother as his slave. Moving forward, you see how the fiqh branches out? We go into other chapters now. Bab al-Nafaqa, right? Bab al-Itq, manumission. Bab al-Irth, rules of inheritance, all from this one chapter. He says here, also he speaks on the different issues of the blood money, retribution. Can a son be killed because of his mother, vice versa, right? Al-Aql and Diya, with regards to homicide, manslaughter, right? The different rulings of, can a father be killed through his son or by his son, vice versa. Are we understanding this? Life for life. Does that apply to father and son? You with me or not? He also says, وَلَا يَسْقُطْ عَنْهَا الْقِصَاصُ بِقَتْلِهِ. The person, their life can be taken. He says, so therefore they are like two ajnabis with regards to those rulings. So they are mother and son, but at the same time, they aren't what? Mother and son. Moving forward. He says, they also unanimously agree as that the wet nurse or the woman who fed the children, who gave the children the milk, the same applies to all of the children of the suckling child. They would be her foster grandchildren, and so on and so forth, the further you go down the line. And the same applies to the actual children of the woman. Neither of their children can ever marry. Are you understanding this? Or there's hurma. There's hurma. Moving forward. He says, and this is an example of which, or in when, can, he says, min al-nasab, as if they're blood. All right. So there are things of which there are parallels, and there are things which are what? Aren't. Moving forward. وأما الرجل المنسوب ذلك اللبن إليه لكونه زوج المرأة أو وطئها بملك أو شبهة فمذهبنا ومذهب العلماء كافة ثبوت حرمة الرضاع بينه وبين الرضيع ويصير ولدا له وأولاد الرجل إخوة الرضيع وأخواته وتكون إخوة الرجل أعمام الرضيع وأخواته عماته وتكون أولاد الرضيع أولاد الرجل ولم يخالف في هذا إلا أهل الظاهر وابن علية. As far as the man who is primarily responsible for the actual milk, meaning he was the woman's husband or master, or it was an illicit marriage, he thought she was out of the iddah, whatever the case may be, technically they're not husband and wife, the marriage was batil, the marriage was fasid, but he thought that he was sleeping with his wife. Inshallah. He says, then our madhab, and the madhab of 99% of the ulama, is that the same rules apply. Is that man, there's now a hurma connection between the man and the child. The first ruling was unanimous. And that was between how many people? The mother and the child. Done. Now he's speaking on the what? The man who's responsible for the woman's milk. He impregnated her. She's bearing the milk from his Hahua. Everyone understand this? Are they now mahrams for each other? And that isn't consensus of the ulama. Rather, there is khilaf on that matter. We'll stop here tonight. We've taken a lot. There are many, many other issues to discuss with regards to this hadith and with regards to this chapter Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should knows best. Hopefully everyone was enlightened by these points of reference and these discussions. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best. Wa iyyakum.